My name is Allison Murphy. I'm 26, and until 2 weeks ago, I thought I was in one of those quiet, steady relationships that didn't need constant reassurance to feel real. We'd been together for 6 months, not casually, not ambiguously. 6 months of shared weekends, inside jokes, toothbrushes left at each other's places, and conversations that leaned toward the future without either of us flinching. He had met my friends. I had met his. We were exclusive, even if we never sat down and drafted a formal agreement like adults with clipboards. Or so I thought. The night everything changed was painfully ordinary. We were at his apartment. He had cooked, something simple but thoughtful. The kind of meal you make when you're comfortable with someone. Music low, wine poured, no tension in the air that I could feel. Until he stopped eating. He kept rolling the stem of his glass between his fingers, eyes fixed on the table like the answer he needed might be etched into the wood. "I've been thinking," he said. That sentence alone made my stomach tighten. "About us." I set my fork down slowly. "Okay." He took a breath that felt rehearsed. I don't know if putting labels on what we have is a good idea." I blinked, once, then again. "Labels?" I repeated. "What labels?" "You know," he said quickly. "Boyfriend, girlfriend, exclusive, all that stuff. It creates expectations. Pressure." Pressure. This was the same man who had talked about a weekend trip next month. The same man who had introduced me to his coworkers as the woman I've been telling you about. The same man who kissed my forehead every time he thought I was asleep. "And what exactly are you suggesting?" I asked. He finally looked at me then, and there was something in his expression that didn't belong to us. Something distant, careful. "I think we should keep things casual," he said. "Just enjoy each other without defining it." The word casual landed like ice water in my chest. "So," I said slowly, "after 6 months you want to downgrade?" "It's not a downgrade," he insisted. "It's freedom, for both of us." Freedom. That word echoed, hollow and convenient. I studied his face, searching for confusion, guilt, anything human. Instead, he looked relieved. Like he'd finally said the thing he'd been practicing in his head. I could have asked 100 questions. Why now? What changed? Is there someone else? But something in me went still instead. I realized in that moment that he wasn't asking how I felt. He was informing me of a decision he'd already made. So I nodded. "If that's what you want," I said evenly, "then I'll make my own choices too." He frowned, clearly not expecting that. "That's not what I meant," he said. I stood up, grabbed my jacket, and smiled politely. The kind of smile you give a stranger, not someone you've shared a bed with. "Then maybe you should think more carefully about what you say," I replied. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I didn't negotiate my worth. I thanked him for dinner and walked out. And as I drove home, the only thought looping through my mind was this. People don't suddenly want freedom. They want options. I didn't text him when I got home. Not because I was playing games, but because there was nothing left to clarify. He'd been clear enough. Casual. For the first 24 hours, I floated in that strange emotional limbo where nothing hurts yet because your brain hasn't caught up with reality. I went to work, answered emails, laughed at the right moments, told myself I was fine. Then the questions started creeping in at night. Was I supposed to wait? Was casual code for don't leave, just don't expect anything? Was I being punished for something I didn't even know I'd done? By the second day, I stopped trying to decode it. If he wanted casual, I decided, then I would treat it exactly like that. No assumptions, no exclusivity, no emotional holding pattern. So I updated my dating app profile. Nothing dramatic. Just a few photos I already liked. A bio that said exactly what I meant. Looking for connection. Clear communication. No games. The irony didn't escape me. I matched with Evan first. 30. Works in UX design. Direct. Asked me out for coffee instead of texting for days. We met on a Wednesday afternoon, laughed more than I expected, and parted with an easy hug that didn't feel loaded. 2 days later, I reconnected with Lucas, a friend of a friend I'd always gotten along with but never dated because, until recently, I hadn't been available. We went to a live show downtown. No pressure, no confusion, just conversation and music, and someone who didn't flinch when I said what I wanted out of life. I didn't hide any of it. When my boyfriend texted, "What are you up to this weekend?" I answered honestly. "Coffee with Evan on Saturday, concert Sunday." There was a pause, a long one. "Who's Evan?" he finally replied. "Someone I'm seeing," I wrote back, casually. Another pause. "Oh," he sent, just that. The next few days, his texts changed tone. Not angry, not yet, just unsettled. So, are you seriously seeing these guys? When did you start talking to him? Is Lucas the guy you mentioned before? When I answered calmly, factually, the way adults do when they have nothing to hide, the questions sharpened. You seem different, he said one night. I'm just matching the energy you asked for, I replied. That's when the frustration started leaking through. This isn't what I meant, he texted later. I didn't think you'd start dating other people so fast. I stared at my phone, thumb hovering over the screen. You said casual, I finally typed. To me, that means no exclusivity. He didn't respond for almost an hour. Then, I assumed we'd still be us. There it was. He wanted freedom, with conditions. Space for himself. Stillness from me. By the end of the week, his messages weren't curious anymore. They were tight, defensive. Why are you doing this? I feel like you're punishing me. We need to talk. I read that last message twice. The same man who had calmly removed the ground from under my feet was now asking for a serious conversation about the relationship he'd stripped of meaning. And for the first time since that dinner, something inside me clicked into place. This wasn't about labels. It never had been. This was about control, and the fact that he was losing it. We met at a coffee shop downtown, the kind with exposed brick and uncomfortable wooden chairs that make conversations feel more serious than they need to be. He suggested his apartment first. I said no. Neutral ground felt necessary now, like I needed witnesses, even if they were strangers pretending not to listen. When he walked in, I almost didn't recognize him. He looked tired. Not heartbreak tired. Restless tired. Like someone who hadn't been sleeping because their carefully balanced situation had tipped over. Hey, he said, forcing a smile as he sat down. Hey, we ordered. Small talk hovered awkwardly between us until it finally collapsed under its own weight. I don't understand why you're acting like this, he said. Dating other people. It feels extreme. I wrapped my hands around my cup, let the warmth ground me. What exactly did you expect me to do? I asked. I don't know, he admitted. Wait, maybe? Give me time. There it is, I said quietly. He frowned. What? You wanted time, I continued, but you wanted me frozen while you figured things out. That's not fair. Then tell me the truth, I said, finally looking him dead in the eyes. Because this didn't come out of nowhere. Something changed, and I'm done guessing. He leaned back, exhaled slowly, and for a moment I thought he might still try to dodge it. Then he spoke. My ex reached out, he said. There it was, the missing piece clicking into place with a dull, painful finality. When? I asked. About a month ago. A month. She said she was moving back to the city, he continued. Wanted to catch up, just as friends. Just as friends, always. And did you? I asked. He hesitated. That was answer enough. Yes, he said, a couple times. While I thought he was working late, while I was texting goodnight, while I was planning a future, he was quietly revisiting his past. I didn't do anything wrong, he rushed to add. Nothing physical happened. That's not the bar, I said calmly. That's the floor. He rubbed his face. Seeing her brought up a lot. History, feelings. It made me question things. So instead of talking to me, I said, you decided to demote our relationship and keep me around while you explored whether you wanted her. He stiffened. That's not how I see it. Of course not, I replied, because if you said it that way, you'd have to admit how selfish it sounds. She was my first love, he said defensively. It's complicated. I nodded slowly. You know what's not complicated? Wanting someone. Choosing them. Being honest. His eyes filled with tears then, like emotion could still change the math. I made a mistake, he said. I choose you. I want to fix this. After you tested the alternative, I replied. He reached for my hand. I pulled it back. I'm not your backup plan, I said, and I won't audition for a role I already had. He opened his mouth to argue, then stopped. Because for the first time, he realized the conversation wasn't going the way he'd rehearsed. I thought that would be the end of it. A clean break. Painful, but contained. The kind you process privately and eventually outgrow. I underestimated how hard it is for some people to accept losing access to someone they assumed would always be there. The first few days after the coffee shop conversation were quiet. No texts. No calls. I let myself believe he was respecting the boundary I'd drawn. Then the coincidences started. I ran into him at the grocery store on a Tuesday night, my least predictable errand, something I did only when the fridge was truly empty. He was standing 2 aisles over, holding a box of cereal he'd never bought once in the 6 months we were together. Oh, hey, he said, startled but not surprised enough. Hey, I replied, polite and distant. We exchanged a few meaningless sentences about work, weather, nothing. I wished him well and walked away. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Didn't know you shopped here now. I didn't reply. 2 days after that, a mutual friend texted me. He's having a rough time. Keeps saying he made the biggest mistake of his life. I responded with a single line, I hope he figures it out. Another friend reached out the next week. Same message, different wording. He's really hurting. He's confused. He misses you. What they all meant was, can you make this easier for him? Then came the gym. My gym, 20 minutes from his apartment, a place he'd openly complained about being too crowded and not his vibe. I was halfway through a set when I saw him in the mirror. He was pretending not to look at me, pacing on a treadmill that wasn't even turned on yet. Every few seconds, his eyes flicked in my direction. I finished my workout without acknowledging him. As I headed for the locker room, I saw him hovering near the entrance through the glass, checking his phone, shifting his weight, rehearsing a chance encounter. I took the side exit. When I got to my car, I saw him round the corner, scanning the parking lot. He spotted me just as I was pulling out. He waved. I waved back and drove away. An hour later, a text appeared. I was already in the area. Thought I'd try a new gym. I stared at the message for a long time before responding. This gym is nowhere near your place. Please stop showing up where I am. This crosses a line. No reply. That night, I blocked his number. Social media followed. Then I warned the gym staff, quietly, calmly, that if he asked about me, they weren't to share anything. I wasn't being dramatic, I was being careful. A week later, the truth finished catching up to him. His ex, the one who had suddenly reappeared and made everything complicated, was never planning to choose him. She'd been vague, non-committal, always just out of reach. Then someone tagged her in a photo. Engagement ring, champagne glasses, a caption about forever. She'd been engaged for 8 months. I found out through a friend who couldn't hide the irony in her voice when she told me. He's devastated, she said. Apparently she said she thought he understood it was just casual. Casual. The same word he'd used on me. The same justification. I felt something unexpected then. Not satisfaction, not revenge. Just clarity. People who fear commitment often don't want freedom. They want insurance. And for the first time, I was grateful I'd canceled the policy. I thought the story would end quietly after that. I was wrong. About 2 weeks later, I started noticing the shift. Not in my life, but around it. The way people spoke to me. The pauses before answering texts. The careful wording. Finally, one of my friends said it out loud. He's telling people you cheated. I actually laughed at first. A short, disbelieving sound that didn't match the tight feeling in my chest. Cheated? I repeated. On what relationship? Apparently, according to his version, we'd been solid, committed, happy, until I'd suddenly started seeing other men behind his back and blindsided him. He was the victim now, the confused, heartbroken guy betrayed by a woman who moved on too fast. I didn't react immediately. I sat with it for a full day, letting the anger burn down to something cleaner. Then I opened my phone. I gathered screenshots. The message where he asked to keep things casual. The text where I told him, clearly, when I had plans with other people. His responses, his assumptions, his silence. No commentary, no insults. Just timestamps and truth. I sent everything in one calm group message to the people who mattered. I'm not interested in drama, I wrote, but I won't let my character be rewritten. This is what actually happened. The responses came fast. Oh, wow. He really said that? I'm so sorry, Allison. This changes everything. Even one of his closest friends messaged privately. I didn't know the full story. That wasn't okay. The narrative collapsed almost instantly, because lies rely on silence, and I'd finally decided not to be quiet anymore. The fallout for him was swift and brutal. Sympathy dried up. Conversations stopped. People started asking questions he couldn't answer. And just when I thought the chaos had peaked, it took one last turn. Remember his ex? The engaged one. She found out he'd been telling people she was the reason we broke up, and that I was unstable for not understanding his confusion. So she did what people do when they're cornered by lies. She told the truth. She reached out to her fiancé, showed him the messages, the meetups, the emotional overlap she'd downplayed. The engagement didn't survive 48 hours. What followed was a public implosion. Posts deleted, captions rewritten, vague quotes about betrayal and growth and seeing someone's true character. True? He blamed her. She blamed him. And in the middle of it all, I stayed silent. Because for the first time, I didn't need to defend myself. The truth had momentum now, and it didn't need my help. By the time the dust settled, my life felt quiet. Not empty, not lonely, just peaceful in a way I hadn't realized I was missing. I was still seeing Evan, slowly, honestly. Somewhere along the way, casual had turned into intentional without either of us forcing it. One night, after dinner at my place, he looked at me and said, "I'm not interested in juggling options. If I'm here, I'm here." No hesitation, no disclaimers, no fear dressed up as freedom. It felt radical. A week later, he introduced me to his friends as his girlfriend, like it was the most natural thing in the world. No flinching, no overthinking, just certainty. I didn't realize how much I'd been holding my breath before until I finally exhaled. As for my ex, his name stopped coming up. When it did, it was usually followed by an awkward pause and a quick subject change. People had seen enough. They didn't need updates. Once, a mutual friend asked if I felt bad about how everything turned out. I thought about it carefully before answering. "I feel sad that he didn't know what he wanted," I said, "but I don't feel bad for refusing to be an option." Because that was the real lesson. People who truly want you don't ask you to wait in uncertainty. They don't demote you while they explore nostalgia. They don't call commitment pressure and honesty optional. They choose. And if they don't, the most powerful thing you can do isn't to fight harder. It's to walk away cleanly and let reality finish the conversation for you. I didn't lose him. I outgrew the version of myself who would have stayed.